Hey everybody, welcome back to Zippy Industries. Today, we're finally bending stainless. All right, so I've already started on our stainless frame. You can see our layout we got going on here. All right, this top tube is more or less done. I got the bends where I want them. I still need to do a bend up here to terminate onto our neck. But we're gonna do something a little different on this frame. All right, so you'll have to see what we got going on out there, but you're gonna have to wait. So now we got to do the other one. We got our layout here. We got our rogue fab bender, and I really need to build a stand for that at some point and clean off my benches because every flat surface accumulates shit. Anyway, we're gonna get to these. These are right now. This is 145 degrees on the dial, right? So there is spring back. So, but this is 145 on the dial on the bender. These are at 24 each, about 10 and a half-ish here. And this should end up around 21 inches or so. So kind of similar lines to our Texas bike here. The bottom is going to be a little similar, but we're probably going to shorten this up a little bit and bring it into like here somewhere. Just to kind of clean it up a bit. I really wanted that back motor mount, but I think that's going to be too far, and then it's going to end up looking like this one, which I don't like. But let's do some bending. Damn it. All right, got our second rail on. As you can see, we got more gap up here than back here. So it's pretty close, right? But we're gonna still have to do some more tweaking. This one here, it was 24 degrees on the dial, but I kept having to do half and 1 degree increments in order to get it to where it was straight all the way in parallel. So probably gonna do the same with that. We got our laser here. So we got this guy. We'll level out our jig. All right, and then we'll put a measurement on it, see what we got. That's good enough to get us our first measurement, essentially. All right, let's see what we got here. It's gonna be a little difficult to do with the other tube in the way, so we're probably gonna have to pull our other tube down. So that's 3/4 there. 7/8 there. This tube is at 7/8, so this is where we need it to be up top. All right, but this needs to come out, which means our bend here. In the back, this needs to come in, right? Because if we pull this in, it'll pull this in, which will pull the top in, which will pull this out. All right, so let's see what we got back here. It's a little fatter than up front, or than the other rail, so I have to do some tweaking here. 4 3/4. All right. Yeah. So also here, right? This is out further, right? So, which if we pull this, it's going to push it out further yet. So, let's do this. take this other side off so that I can actually fucking measure without hitting the damn thing. Just make sure I don't laser myself. Alright, now let's get a fucking measurement. Alright, so we're set 3/4. Alright, that one's 1/8 under. That's 4 3/4. And 4 3/4. So we need to bend it here. Alright, this is from the other one whenever I was doing it. I've come in here and because I had the blocks on, right? So I'm not taking those blocks off. But we can figure out where our angle is. And compare the two. All right. Compare that to this side. 1 inch. Alright, so this is telling me this is less bend. So I need to put it back in the bender and do a little tweaking. Alright, so a little bit of a disaster yesterday because my head was in other places and I wasn't paying attention. So the blocks on this Rogue is a 4.5 inch offset, right? When you put it in the bender. So wherever the clamp block is, 4.5 inches back. Well, my bend was supposed to be up here, but I put the tube in backwards. Yeah. So now our bend's down here, which is not going to work. So this is going to have to be slugged. All right. So we're going to have to do a new bend after I'm going to cut this. Cut this off, do a new bend to where it should be, which is like that, which will fix that side. All right. And then on this side, since we're going to do this, all right, since we're already doing that, might as well do it on this side too, which will make our life a little easier. So now what we're going to do is where the front motor mount or where the front transmission mount is, now we're going to taper the front of this frame. So instead of this all being straight, or instead of going in and going to a single, now we're going to taper this and it'll come right under the motor mount and it'll come up and hit our stem, so, or our neck. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. I really wasn't wanting to slug this. In general, I really wasn't wanting to put any welds on the tube itself. I was trying to do everything in one piece, but the reality of it is trying to do that with getting it on the neck and everything else and trying to fit all that as one part would have been fucking almost impossible. Well, at least for me by myself. So this will at least give me something I can work with versus something that I would just fought forever and it in one little bend and everything gets fucked up like we already saw. So that's where we're at. All right, the top tube, this is all done. I do need to tweak these just a smidge, like 1/2 degree, but that's where these are going to live, is up here. And once I bring them in, they're going to be the width of this bolt. All right, so that's the distance it'll be in here once we cut these and trim them and cope it for the neck. Right, that's where we will end up. They'll be about that thick. All right, so I think it's a hat. No, it's like a 3/4 inch bolt. Anyway, so we'll have a 3/4 inch gap between these, which will be nice. Because then we can do our tank mounts, all right, and do some other stuff in there that'll look nice. It'll keep it together, and we can use it as a gusset. I got some plans for that, but anyway, let's get to it. Back on our stainless frame, we got stuff tacked in. All right, got some tubes tacked, got tack on the neck, got our lowers tacked. That way this thing's actually locked in, right? Before these were able to move, right? Because there's really nothing to hold. There's this, but there's nothing like concrete solid to hold the back. So I got this squared up. They're all parallel. The top is parallel. Everything should be good, right? So next thing I'm gonna do is make some axle plates. That way I can get rid of the plastic, because they do offer a little bit of movement, which, you know, isn't ideal for making a frame. So we're gonna do these next, and then we'll do the lowers, all right? So we are building a little bit of rake into the bottom part of the frame. So this will essentially come through here, right? Which will put it right below our front motor mount, right? And then if you saw before, from here forward, it's gonna be tapered in. And it's gonna be tapered and then tapered, and then, yeah. So it's gonna be a slim, thick kind of thing, and hopefully it works out. Let's make these axle plates. Got our lower tubes bent here. All right, so kind of look like this. You can see there's a bend here, and I'll go over that line. All right, so the bend's gonna come up through here. I have a little more room in here because we have a generator that's gonna go in here, because we're gonna run the Jenny shovel, not the cone shovel, which I don't have a print for yet, but I'm printing one. But these tubes are going to terminate right around in here. All right, so it'll tie it into these top bars and also tie it in the neck as well, so it'll strengthen this whole joint at node. All right, and then back here, they're going to taper in about 6 degrees, 6.5, 7 degrees. All right, and it's going to bring them in out here and then run them up. So I did have the taper out here, but it looked kind of weird. All right, so we brought the taper back so that we just have this straight area, and then they'll taper forward and they'll be nice and gradual and not so abrupt. So now all I gotta do is cut these to length, and then put them up here, and then we can mark where we need to do our notches. So that'll be fun because it's gonna be a compound notch. Yeah, not looking forward to this. All right, making more progress on our stainless frame. We got our bottom end, got our seat post and the yoke. The yoke, we're probably going to tie a piece in here. I want to do a little piece here to round this out to finish it. And then we'll tie this in here. So then it triangulates all this more. All right, it makes all this, where the bend is, it'll support it a lot better. Give it more support. Our motor mount will come in here somewhere. I'm going to try and put it between the rails and then have it mount in here, so that we can totally remove it when we need to and it'll be clean. But right now we're going to do the axle plates. So one of the problems that we ran into with our plastic deal, right, so the rails are perfectly level, right, they're parallel. But with the way that it sat in those cones, originally they were designed so that this would be in the middle. Well, as you see, it's not. It's actually raised up some. So what I'm going to do is drop, all right, battery died. So I'm going to lower this down to where it puts this in center. This is going to be our axle bushing material on the mount. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It is 1.25 inch, 250 wall, so should be plenty for this. But 3/4 axle for this guy. So we're going to do that. That's going to mount here, and then I'm going to run spacers off. I thought about mounting it up here, but I think that would be too far forward and it would look weird. We still might. I'm gonna play around with these holes and see which is gonna look the best. If we did it here, we would have more, you know, to go out. So, but it would stiffen this whole thing better because it had support further out versus back. So we might do it here. It brings our wheel in. So we'll play with it. Let's get to it. All right, back on our stainless frame. Got our axle plates tacked together. Well, if you want to call them axle plates, the mounts, right? So both sides are done, both sides are tacked. Everything is ready to go. I got this little guy here. All right, there are going to be ones that are going to go in here for the tank. Once I get the tank, we'll do that, and then we'll do some other stuff here too to kind of build this up. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this part out on this seat post. All right, so that way I can put my motor mounts in, right? Because once the motor mount, because it goes right in here. Once that's in here, I'm not going to have a real clear avenue here, and I would like to get some of this welded while I have clear path. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do this top post too. This is going to be cut down a little bit, but I want to get the weld on here, and then I'll grind it down to where we want it to be. So it'll probably be just above here. Yeah, I could cut this flush and then weld it out that way, but it is what it is. All right, so it'll give a little more strength. I'm trying to give as much strength to this thing as we can. We're also going to put a piece in here more than likely. All right, so we'll split a piece of tube, put it in here, and then connect these. That way this is more triangulated, or we might just leave it the way it is. I don't know. So first things first, I'm going to weld this guy, and then we're going to weld this top. All right, and then these two will be welded out. And once that's in, right, then we can start welding some other stuff. Probably going to weld these also so they are finished, and then these will be complete. I definitely want to get this first because once I start welding this thing is going to want to move. All right, so if we can get this stuff in, then we can start kind of working our way. For the front, definitely want to get our motor mounts in, right, because that's going to hold these stable and hold them in place. If you're familiar with stainless at all, this shit likes to move a lot. It pulls a lot when you weld it. So yeah, really try and not turn this thing into a pretzel if at all possible. We do have some tubes that we're going to put up here, so this will get triangulated out as well. So once I weld this out and this out, right, these are going to come out. I'm going to take these gussets out and weld all of this first, and then I'm going to put these back in. I'm going to try and get in here as much as I can, but like this inner joint is going to be about impossible with these in. So you gotta get that. And then I'll get these put in, and then hopefully it'll keep these top rails from moving around. So they're pretty stiff, especially since we put this gusset in. They don't really move at all, thankfully. So, and then once we triangulate this, it's going to strengthen this a whole lot more. It's going to triangulate all this. It's going to look like a little ladder system. So it'll be good to go. Let's do some welding. there we have it. First welds, right? Yeah, not bad. Got a little warm in there. You can see the haze a little out. That one's not bad. These got a little warm too. I think it might be this material also, because I think this is 303, so it welds a little different. I could be entirely wrong, but it's definitely warm. Yeah, anyway. But first welds are on, right? Now the seat post is welded out, right? We got to weld the bottom still because I have it going through the bottom. And then we got weld underneath, but top and bottom are locked in place, right? These aren't going anywhere. These rails are locked in. Those bottom rails are locked in. They're no longer tacked. So now we can actually start really putting some heat to it. Not really, right? Stainless, it's gonna move. So, but I was going up and down to try and keep the heat and move it around. That way it wouldn't put too much in one spot. So that's gonna do it for now. We got a lot of work to do still. We got a lot, because we gotta build motor mounts, that whole deal. We gotta do some other stuff in there. But we are well on our way to having one of my dream frames, essentially, stainless, because I hate myself. Take care. We'll stay tuned. We'll see you later.